When it comes to aviation, I've never met a person with more passion, knowledge. Whenever there's a big story on aviation, I always go to Rich Kaplan and he nails it. We have any aviation fans out there?
Yes, yes.
All right, excellent. And Rich, and he brings amazing props as well. The microphone is yours. Rich Kaplan.
Thank you. Good evening, Long Beach. Good evening, South Shore of Long Island, and all of Long Island, including my hometown, Massapequa Park. We've just been cleared for takeoff, so let's fly. On this edition, I want to start off with what made news today. The Indonesian government has finally released the final report into the crash of AirAsia Flight 8501. Now, for those who have been following, on December 28, 2014, an Airbus A320 with 162 passengers on board departed Indonesia bound for Singapore. About halfway into the flight, the plane stalled and crashed. All 162 on board perished. We finally know what happened to this aircraft, and I'm going to walk you guys through it just like I walk you through every week. On December 28, 2014, an AirAsia A320 crashed while en route to Singapore from Indonesia. The plane had 162 passengers and crew on board. Today, the Indonesian Transportation Safety Committee, which is their version of our NTSB, concluded that it was a combination of a technical fault and pilot error. I'm going to walk you through exactly what this means. In aviation jargon, whenever you investigate a plane crash, you go through three stages. You first try to put together the aircraft with whatever pieces of wreckage you have. From this wreckage, you start to get a puzzle of what happened. You also want to recover the two black boxes, which, as I have mentioned on numerous occasions, they're really orange. We just call them black for reasons which I personally have yet to figure out.
Black means death, probably?
Probably, exactly. My videographer, Rocco, just pointed out black means death, so we should actually be calling them death boxes then. Okay, but that being said, the flight data recorder is one of the two recorders that we look at. The FDR is the more important, and I'm going to explain why. Flight data recorders basically record everything from the aircraft's telemetry to the ailerons, the flaps. Every aspect of an aircraft is recorded on this recorder. If something mechanical went wrong, the FDR will ultimately pick it up. What's interesting about the FDR in this particular case is that night we know that Flight 8501 was flying in an area that's very notorious for stormy weather. So a lot of people in the industry feel that the weather played a part. The reality is, sadly, it did not, as I'm about to explain. The initial problem was a cracked soldering joint on a part of the aircraft's computer system which specifically deals with the rudder. Now, I brought this F-18, which is not an A320, unfortunately, but as you can see, it does have a tail section. This part here, is that our videographer Rocco can pan in on, is the rudder. The rudder is like the rudder on a ship or on a boat. I'm sure a lot of Long Beach people have boats. You know your rudder steers you. Well, on an airplane, it's a little different. You have a rudder and you have the ailerons. The ailerons are like little spoilers that come up and down, steering the airplane in the appropriate direction. And I'm sure a lot of you, when you see the planes flying overhead, they make their turns, you see a part of the wing popping up. That's not the spoiler, that's the aileron helping it to steer. Well, in the case of 8501, there was a fault in the rudder. So subsequently, what the pilots tried to do is they tried to correct through the stick and pedals on the aircraft. This did not work. What doomed the aircraft is what they actually did next. Now, most people, as I've spoken on the A320 before, there are circuit breakers. Normally, a pilot will try to reset this particular system by popping the circuit breaker. Well, in this case, this was the fatal blow that brought this jet down. When they reset the circuit breaker, they didn't realize they automatically powered off the autopilot. The jet immediately went into a roll as it was stalling. There was no way that anyone, maybe Logan could do it because he's a magician, but I don't know of anyone else who could conceivably recover this airplane once it's in what's called a death roll. There is no way you can correct for that much counterbalance within your thrust. As a result, the airplane plunged into the Java Sea and 162 people were killed. Sadly, what this tells us, though, is that Airbus needs to make these systems more redundant, and they need to train the pilots better in how to reset the system. Rather than popping a circuit breaker, do it through the computer software. Airbuses are notoriously computerized. That's one of the reasons why most of the diehards in aviation like myself have coined the phrase, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. So that's why I prefer Boeing over Airbus. Now, last time, to our loyal viewers out there, I walked you through the process of landing an F-18 on an aircraft carrier. Well, today, I'm going to show you how we launch this bad boy. To launch an F-18 off the deck of a carrier is a series of processes that are done. The first process, of course, now, the pilot's in the aircraft, he's gone through his pre-flight checks, lowers the canopy, fires up the 2 engines in the rear. Once the engines are fired, he will taxi the aircraft into a position where behind him, unbeknownst to him, of course, but known to us if we've seen Top Gun, is a massive wall that's going to raise up. The reason that wall is going to raise up is that this jet is going to put out 22,000 pounds of thrust per engine. Now, for those who are not familiar with the 747, a 747 needs 17,000 pounds of thrust just to get airborne. This jet's going to need all 44,000 pounds just to get off a 309-foot deck. As I'm about to explain, this is how the process is going to work. First of all, I'd like to thank our waitress at the Laurel for providing me some sweet and low, because this is going to act as our shuttle. No relation to the space shuttle. When the aircraft taxis in, as Rocco is panning in, there is a device called a tow bar that's going to lower down and lock itself into the catapult's shuttle. This shuttle is steam powered. As he's locking in there, he is going through a series of pre-flights. Among them, he's going to lower these wing tips for flight, which we're going to lock in right now. Our wings are now fully extended for flight. Never mind that we lost a bomb. This would not happen in real life. The Navy's not that careless. Okay, once we are locked in, now I have calculated mathematically exactly how much poundage this aircraft will need off that catapult to get airborne. My mathematics is correct, which I got from a buddy of mine at the U.S. Navy. 40,000 pounds is what's required to get this jet from 0 to 180 miles an hour, which will generate enough laminar flow for these wings to generate lift. Now, mind you, as I pointed out before, on a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, which is currently what the U.S. Navy's operating, each of these cats has a length of about 309 feet. Now, try to imagine 309 feet. That's about less than what the Wright brothers' first flight was, remarkably. But that's what's about to happen. The shooter sits inside what's called a bubble. He can actually look out at the deck, see the aircraft, see the shooter who is sitting here with a button, and he's going through a series of signals. Now, if anyone's ever seen Top Gun, you notice they always salute. They go like that to the shooter. What that means is that the pilot is now ready for the catapult to do its thing and launch him. Once he is saluted, the LSO, or the operator on the deck of the carrier, they all have different colored shirts. He's going to basically be giving signals ranging from this to pivot the wings so he can see the flaps are working and all the systems are functional. Only when we know that everything on this F-18 is functional does he give the nod to the shooter to activate the catapult. Now, once that cat is activated, if you've seen Top Gun, it is literally like King Dakar. You will go from 0 to 150 in 3.5 seconds.
That's real quick.
3.5 seconds is all it takes for this jet to go from a standstill position to airborne. At no time does the pilot ever touch the flight controls. That is a no-no. He's literally holding on to 2 bars that are above him. Once these wheels clear the deck and he's officially airborne, will he take the stick, he will fold the landing gear, and he will accelerate. The whole purpose of this system is to basically get the aircraft off the deck as quickly as possible. Now, on a Nimitz-class carrier, I've also calculated just how many of these F-18As there actually are. On the standard Nimitz-class carrier, there are 38 F-15As, 12 F-18 Super Hornet, which is the newer version of this aircraft that has a larger wing and can carry an extra bomb load, There are 4 E-2C Hawkeyes built right here on Long Island, originally Grumman E-2Cs. And lastly, you have helicopters. As you've just witnessed, this is what goes into the process of launching a F-18 into the sky. On future segments, I'll show you more on our military, but tonight I wanted to salute our brave men and women serving overseas. You are our heroes, and we love you for it. Thank you so much for what you do. God bless you. The skies have been cleared. We've just been cleared for takeoff. Have a great night, Laurel. Love you.
All right. We're going to close the show with a little sports report.